Hi, I'm Tony Mould and I'm a paracyclist. From a young age, even though I had a disability, I just such a desire to participate in sport, which was strange because none of my family were very sporty and I wasn't the most obvious athlete that ever was, but I lived in a small town. I attended a small, normal school, so I just did not have any opportunities to participate in sport. One day when I was at school, I was sitting down watching the children play in the sport, and apparently I don't remember the specific situation, but apparently I had a little meltdown because I wasn't able to join the children in the activities. And a teacher of mine, Joe Evans, came to sit with me, and as she recounts the story, she found herself saying something she wasn't even expecting to say. She said, "Don't worry, God sees you, and one day you will go to the Paralympics." At this stage, it sounded quite impossible because it just couldn't be sport, and there were no facilities in the area for a person with a disability to be active in the sport. For years, I dabbled in horse riding. A varsity was part of Maltese Dance Society during ballroom and Latin dancing, but I just knew that both of them wasn't going to lead me into international competitions. It was at that stage I was around 24, 25 when I actually had to stop horse riding on doctor's advice because my back had deteriorated so much, and about a year later I stopped dancing because I just found it too painful in my back to continue dancing. About 4 years later, after I stopped dancing, I met up was a final one. Roxy just returned from the Paralympics in London in 2012, and she invited me to join the cycling league in Stellenbosch. I had a very old track which I brought up to Cape Town, and I started cycling with the league. It took us about 6 months to figure out that I had a talent or potential as a cyclist, and then I was encouraged to invest in racing tricycle. It took us about 18 months to raise the funds for the tricycle, and January 2015 I participated in my first national championship. It was about 2 months after my first nationals that I was called up into the South African team, and I've been doing international races ever since August 2015, and that to me alone is a testimony, because I am not funded by any government or sports body. I'm totally self-funded, which means I have to raise my own money to compete and train. And when I go to races, I can't go alone. I have to take a friend or a family member who acts as my carer/assistant. So for us, a trip is about between 60 to 80,000 rand per competition. So purely the fact that I was able to compete for 4 years internationally is such a testimony to God's provision. As I continued in my sporting career, obviously the Paralympics is the ultimate platform in para sport. So most athletes aim for it. And I was told by various people in cycling that I should not aim for the Paralympics, because at the Paralympics, my class, which is the T1 classification, competes against a higher or more able class, the T2s, and therefore it's very difficult that a team wants to compete against the other class, and therefore they wouldn't select me for the Paralympics. And this was told to me over and over throughout the time of cycling. And yet, I had this word spoken over me when I was about 12 or 13, the day when my teacher, who now was a big friend of mine and a close confidant, she said I would go to the Paralympics, and throughout the years she had reminded me of the day, and we saw it as a God-given prophecy. It was finally towards the end of 2019 when I was at World Championships in the Netherlands, when I really realized that Tokyo was an option. I had been to all the qualification races, and South Africa had one slot for a female paracyclist, and I had been the only female who had competed for the last 3-4 years. And yet, it was at that competition when I asked our manager again if Tokyo was a possibility. When he said no, they were not going to select me. And I remember thinking that day, who do I believe? Do I believe what was prophesied by God? Or do I believe my manager? In 2019 December, a friend of mine, Annette, who usually attends my competitions with me, she spontaneously invited me to drive up to Namibia with her, and we took my tricycle up because we wanted to keep training in case I was selected for Tokyo in 2020. And during my time there, I met a biokineticist who told me I should start to work with one because it would solve a few issues on my tricycle. And when I got back, I started to look for someone, and I knew Gabby as a friend, and I asked Gabby if she would take me on as a client, not knowing that one of Gabby's specialities is scoliosis of the back, which has affected my life. I only found it out in our first consultation with Gabby, and we started to work together initially when I was home and first I worked on my own, and when I returned to Stellenbosch, I used Gabby and I interned again.
Hi, my name is Gabby and I'm a biokineticist by profession, and basically what we do is use exercise as a form of rehabilitation for people with chronic conditions or orthopedic conditions. And Tony is not just a client of mine, but a dear friend from 2018 when I first met her. And from about the beginning of 2020, she started coming to me for exercise rehabilitation. But I just want to share a little bit about my story and my view on what the Lord has done in Tony Mould's life. And she came to me in severe back pain, could barely stand for 15-20 minutes without having any kind of back pain, in agony, in spasms. And as a practitioner, receiving someone like Tony is always a challenge because Tony has cerebral palsy and her condition is not like any other condition. There is no recipe in terms of exercise rehabilitation, knowing, okay, we do these exercises for Tony and for every other kind of person that has cerebral palsy. Every individual that has cerebral palsy, we have to really treat individualistic and with a specific way of just trying to get to those things that are really inhibiting the person to function properly. And my challenge, not having the confidence of working with as complicated cerebral palsy as Tony. I've worked with previous cerebral palsy cases, but not as severe as Tony. I really relied on the Lord for wisdom. There's times where when Tony came in for the assessment, I would think about exercises that could work, and in those moments it was not working. Just being completely honest, I would ask Tony, where did you feel this? And it was just in the wrong places. But in those times, the Lord is so faithful. He came and he would give me creativity and in those moments and just ideas of crazy exercises just thought up on the spot and being like, okay, we're gonna try this and see if it works. And I give all glory to the Lord, because in those moments of spontaneity, of actually receiving an idea for an exercise and implementing it, we constructed a program for Tony to start off with for her rehabilitation process. And I think Tony will also share just now her journey on how she experienced it. But from my side as a practitioner, I could definitely see the results within the first couple of months, where Tony just came in with less pain. She started walking better, eventually starting walking less with her crutch. And it's purely not because that I'm a good practitioner, it's really purely because I really rely on the Lord for that wisdom and asking the Lord of like, yo Lord, I do not know what I'm doing right now with Tony, because what I'm doing now is not working, but you need to come through and show me. And I can honestly testify how the Lord gives those moments in your workplace of being like, okay, here's the idea, try it and run with it and trust Him with it. And when you trust Him, He's faithful to deliver at the end of the day. So yeah, all glory to the Lord. So just to share about the daily struggles of Tony is, Tony takes a lot more time than a usual person to get through her daily routine. And that's very evident. And not only is it a struggle for her to get through her daily routine, she doesn't have the privilege to drive a car, to get anywhere, to get to her exercise sessions or get to the gym. So with this said, it's been a really interesting journey of faith, literally, a journey of really trusting the Lord for provision. And in this time, when Tony would come for exercise sessions, we initially started it at our practice, and praise the Lord for the financial provision for that, where she started with us. And eventually we started doing some home visits, because she started off in the beginning of Feb 2020, and shortly after that lockdown happened. And it's so important the year before leading up to something like Tokyo is you really need to spend time on your physicality and your body and ensuring that it's in the correct condition that it needs to be before peaking in your performance. So this was obviously a struggle because now Tony can't have access to gym facilities, and we writing the home programs also have limited facilities to work with. So in the time of lockdown, we started doing home exercise programs for her, and Tony had to go back home to her mom's side and had to continue with the exercises on her own, and we would check in with her to see if she's doing okay. Praise the Lord, in those times she started feeling a bit better, and when she returned back to Stellenbosch again, we started doing home visits, just purely because with COVID you don't know whether you're putting yourself at risk health-wise, and you don't want to get sick and you don't want to be taken out fitness-wise and have to start all over again. And so we started with minimal equipment that challenged us creativity-wise, what we can do without equipment. And in that time, Tony really worked hard and diligent on her home programs. And thereafter, we just follow up, progress her. I still remember the one day I went to church and Tony just walked across the church without a crutch. And I just looked at her and I was like, Tony, what's going on? And then she was just rejoicing because she was just telling me how for the first time she could walk across the church without worrying about having a crutch with her. Was really moments that really captivated me of just God's goodness in this journey of Tony's rehabilitation and journey to Tokyo. Just the testimony of God's goodness of being faithful to His word and His promises for Tony's life, and that He provided every step of the way. He provided the transport, He provided the finances, He provided the insight and the creativity for the exercise program. He's been in the whole journey every step of the way.
In November 2020, my mom was visiting and we actually drove through to Cape Town to a wheelchair shop because the quality of life had gotten to the point where I couldn't stand or walk for more than 10-15 minutes. And when I couldn't cook a meal or make a sandwich because I couldn't stand, I was starting to limiting my activities outside the house with friends and family. It was always a question of how long will we be out, where will we go, and so on. Due to my back pain. It was on the trip with my other friend Annette in Namibia a year later, now in December 2020, where I started to need my anti-inflammatories and pain medication less and less. I started to skip doses and on the spot I could do things, and I think it was February 2021 where I actually stopped taking anti-inflammatories and painkillers altogether because I didn't need them. So before that I couldn't stand in church, even having a conversation in church or anywhere else, I had to first sit down because of my pain. Now, a year later, I was walking in malls, I was doing shopping, I could stand in worship. It's been amazing. I felt like God has healed my back and given me back what I lost over the last 5 or 6 years. It was in the beginning of 2020 when I received an email from Shofar saying they were willing to contribute for the first time to my competitions in 2020 to complete qualification. That I realized that this wasn't just a slight possibility, but they were actually seriously considering me for Turkey. We all know what happened a few weeks later in lockdown happened and coronavirus happened. And I had to leave Stellenbosch I live with my mom for a few. Well, we talked for 3 weeks, but 3 weeks turned into 6 months. And I went home because due to my disability, I'm more susceptible to complications should I get sick and so forth. So I had to leave home, leave Stellenbosch, leave Gabby and all my training partners and go home to my mother. It was just after the initial lockdown when I remember what I think and what I believe now was God asking me a question. He said, do you still believe in Turkey? I felt then that I had a choice. I could either sit in bed and have a holiday, take a year off training and see what the world would be after a year. Or I could keep on training in faith so that whenever Turkey was going to happen, I was ready for it. I used whatever I had to my disposal. We brought my tricycle up to place for Korea and then started training in place for Turkey. It was not easy. It was the middle of winter and at that point we were only allowed to exercise between 6 AM and 8 AM, and I remember being absolutely frozen on my bicycle, but I was out on the road training. It was during the time that when I went to visit my friend Joe Evans on the farm, and I remember one morning taking photos of the sunrise, and again I felt God talking to me. Basically, God told me that I would see covered around me, but that I would be protected from COVID for a period of time. And that was a big relief to me, and one of the reasons I have the confidence to, in August 2020, to move back to my base in Stellenbosch. And again, God kept His word, because throughout the last 18 months, I have been as healthy as I've ever been, which is quite amazing considering what we've all been through. 2021 has been an even bigger year. I was training in the hope of still going to Tokyo because the games were postponed for a year. But everything was uncertain with lockdowns and a lack of funding. I could not attend the World Championship in June, which was the last qualification competition, and there was just no certainty. I eventually received my letter around about the 12th of July that I'd been selected and that I was going to go to Tokyo Paralympics. Obviously, one of the first people I contacted was Joe to say that the prophecy was now coming true. And we're only had over 6 weeks before we were due to leave for Tokyo. I asked a friend of mine who usually goes with me to competition to go as my helper and carer. And unfortunately, she said no, she's not able to. I thought and I really wanted to ask Jo to come with me because she had lived this dream with me for the last 24 years. But at the time, she was overseas and had been away from home for a good 6 weeks, 2 months, and I wasn't sure of her return date. But eventually I asked her via WhatsApp, and the way God scripted everything, just the timing of her return, the support we get from her family to enable her to now go away for another month was something only God could script. For us it was so special that she could come with me, not only as the person who had prophesied illness 24 years earlier, but also as a good friend, a mentor, a spiritual mother to me. But for us to see her prophesy and then to have her with me at the games itself and to be a witness to God's faithfulness. It was so many times so the last 24 years the dream of going to Paralympics and competing at the highest level in sport seemed so impossible and so far-fetched that to see it come true and to see God remembering His words has just been utterly amazing and at times left us speechless. And I believe the story didn't end in Tokyo. God has done so many small miracles in the lead up to Tokyo. And since I've been back, I comforted on in it's just been an amazing journey and to see God's hand in the detail of how He put it all together. And just one example is for 6 years I've been coaching myself, and now 3 months before Tokyo, someone offered to coach me for nothing, and that was before a month or two before I got my letter to say that I would be going. So Tokyo was a big dream, but I'm reveling in the small details and just amazed at how He doesn't see only see the bigger picture with the smaller details and how He puts it all together.